Burning deep in my soul. My spirit bear witness that I'm a child of a king. And I'm sorry, I just can't walk the way I used to. Say the things I used to do, I just cannot do them no more. There's a peace running deep, deep down in my soul. There's a peace when I'm with you. Jesus, there's a peace in my soul.
You're tuned to Love 101, and we now invite you to listen to Good Morning Minister. We now turn over to the Minister of Information, the Honorable Robert Morgan. Good morning, Minister.
Hi, good morning, Nadine, and good morning to your listeners as well. Welcome to those on Facebook. Welcome to those on Love101 The Family Station. This morning, we have a very important update to give you this morning, and it is with Stephen Shaw, who is the Head of Communications for the National Works Agency. There have been so many questions and concerns about the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, and we thought it very important to bring in Stephen this morning to get an update as to what is going on. Stephen.
So, morning to your listeners.
Why have you abandoned the people in St. Thomas?
We have not, on the contrary, we are making good progress in respect of the works. The work in the parish of St. Thomas has been divided into distinct packages. We call them packages for ease of manageability. We have a number of packages that we have under construction. The first big one is the stretch of road from Yallas to Harborview. We also have that from Yallas all the way to Morant Bay and a little beyond up to Prospect. And we have a couple packages that take you from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley. I believe that because of the level of activities that persons would have seen taking place on the stretch from Harborview to Morant Bay, that's the main cause of some of the angst that we would have been hearing and seeing persons experiencing.
So let's start there, Stephen. Let's start at the Harborview roundabout. What's going to happen between Harborview roundabout and Morant Bay? Or what is happening there?
All right, let me take it in bite sizes. So between the Harborview roundabout and Yallas, we are laying down a 4-lane highway to include.
That's a toll road, right?
No, not a toll road.
It's not a toll road.
Not a toll road. A free road. And so
between Harborview and Yallas will be a free road.
4-lane corridor, yes, with several vistas, laybys, and a lot of opportunities for developmental plans and commercial type, residential type. And already I'm aware that persons have actually started the process to having developments in that space between Harborview and Yallas. So where we are now in respect of that 17.4 kilometer stretch, we have, as of today, Minister, been able to give access in terms of a new road, paved road. Some 15 kilometers have already been
so
done.
So you have 15 kilometers already?
Yes.
But one would, if you listen to the conversations, one would think that you guys not doing any work out there, though. Still.
Well, I think because of the different things that are at play, before we got to this point where we have been able to lay asphalt, a lot of other things had to be done. Remember, it is an integrated project. We're doing water, we're doing telecoms, we're doing sewage, and those things have to be done out of necessity and out practicality before we get to the point where we're laying carpet, as people would say. So a lot of work had to be done, and before we even get to be doing the underground infrastructure, the drainage, and so on, we had to do land acquisition, and land acquisition was ongoing. As part of this overall program of works, we have had to acquire something like 1,000 parcels of land from entire parcels to snippets and slivers of land to facilitate the widening of the corridor. We have had to do the relocating of public poles, JPSCO poles. We have had to be putting in new water lines. We have to test them. We have to make sure that persons are connected and so on. All of these things take a lot of time, a lot of effort. And while those things are taking place, persons would be using the same corridors that are sections of the same corridors that we are working on. And, we can't do that while providing persons with a smooth surface in most instances. But
So you're at Harborview, we're going to Yala. How far are we with that section of the project?
We have been able to give access a new road in many respects from 10 miles all the way to Albion. The last couple of days, we have been working on the stretch from Yallas to Poorman's Corner. I know persons have had issues with the Poorman's Corner area. That's part of a different package, as we call it, heading towards Morant Bay. We are also working between 10 miles and Harborview. The focus really is on us getting to having at least two of the 4 lanes available to the motoring public from Harborview all the way to Yallas. And so the challenges that persons would have been speaking to and experiencing for some time, we want to ensure that those challenges are behind us come the end of this month.
So far, you are trying to give access to 2 lanes of the road heading to Yala from Harborview.
Yes.
And that is now operating.
That we have not yet successfully done so. We have a couple of major things that we need to do, including coming this weekend, and I want to use this opportunity to make this announcement now, and we'll be sharing it generally with the wider media. We are going to be taking out or reducing the single lane, a stretch of road in the Shooters Hill area for about 400 meters. This is necessary as we are going to be creating the embankment on the seaside. On the land side, we have some light poles, JPSCO poles that are in the way, and so we cannot do much on the land side until those poles are relocated. The JPSCO has given a commitment to having those poles relocated on August 28th of this year. Until that is done, we can't really touch that side, but we are going to be working on the seaside, and over a 3-day period from August 5 to 8, and August 5 to 7, 5, 6, 7, right? And on the 8th, we would have been expected to open those 2 lanes on the seaside, and so that will then allow us to give access those 2 lanes all the way to Harborview from Yallas, albeit those 2 lanes on the seaside will not be paved at the end of the process on when was it, on Monday. We will be able to do that though before the end of this month.
So, Stephen, so the road, you're building a highway essentially from Harborview to Port Antonio, or to Portland. But it's not just a highway, because based on what I've heard, you're putting in some other utilities in the road. What are those?
Yeah, as I said, we are doing, it's an integrated project. We are doing road, and the road is what many will see and appreciate and love. But before we even get to that, we want to ensure that the road will last for its design life, which is 20 years and beyond. To do that, we have to make sure that there are no rotted pipes beneath the road. So we're putting in new water lines. We have to make sure that where it is that sewer lines are necessary, that these are also installed. We are big on the issue of connectivity, and we want to ensure that persons, we're just coming out of COVID. We're very lucky to have had a network of sorts that we were rolling out over the last 10, 15 years at the NAA. Persons had to piggyback on that, and government is now generally taking that as part of the strategic decision moving forward to ensure that we're connected not just via Digicel and Flow, but we have a public network. And so that is also part and parcel of what is being done under this major infrastructure program.
So what are some of the utilities?
I lost it there. Say that again.
What are some of the utilities that you're putting in the road?
All right. So we have, as I said, the water lines. We're putting in the sewer lines in selected areas. We have fiber optic cables that we are laying. Those are the main utilities. And of course, we have our stormwater drainage features, box culverts, cylindrical culverts, side drains, U-drains, you name it. Because the life and quality of the road is also dependent on the quality of the drainage features and the drainage system that we have as part of it. Yes.
Why is it important that you had to do this? I mean, wouldn't it have been easier and quicker and cheaper just to build the road so that people would have a quick access to the road? Why do you need to put in all of these things?
It is critical that we do so because, as I alluded to earlier, when we look at what existed for many years, the Water Commission will tell you that its infrastructure is old. It needed to be modernized. And so if we are modernizing the carriageway, the roadways, it makes very good sense for us to, or for government to ensure that the other attendant infrastructure works are also taken on board, because we have had a history in this country of fixing roads, spending the millions of dollars to build roads, only to come a year later or sometimes even less to start excavation, to put in water lines and sewer and all of those things. And you will never get back the compaction levels to what they were prior to such excavation being done. And that is why you'll find in a lot of instances, roads that are undulating because persons were we went into roads, meaning other utility providers, they reinstate, but the reinstatement work was never at the level at which the road had been done prior. And so you get undulating, you get undulation, you get potholes developing, craters developing, and then the entire road becomes an issue.
So So you're putting in utilities, you're building a new road. But one of the challenges that you've had is that you decided to build a road where there's always already a road. What are some of the challenges that have been associated with doing that?
All right. So where you go to build a road, where it's brownfield, it's an active area where persons are using. Unless you have, suitable alternatives, you're always going to be finding that there are conflicts between road users and the use of heavy equipment and the expectations, because persons want to you want to go about your business and go about your business without much impediments. But in modernizing these roads, we have to be sharing the space with the heavy equipment, the workers on the site. You have to be taking on board the vagaries of the weather. We have had very, very hot days. Even when you wet, you still have the issue of fugitive dust, and so persons will complain about things like those. The complaints you generally get a lot more of in these circumstances. I mean, when we were doing the road between the 10 miles and the hotel, complaints would not have been much, but we'll get a lot of because that was really a greenfield area. It's a new bit of road. Not many persons were being impacted outside of maybe the 3 persons who live in the space. But then when you look at this section of road now between 10 miles and Harbour View, where a lot of persons are living and a lot of persons are commuting, you find the complaints are plenty, because they are interacting with the workflow on a daily basis. So that's one of the big issues, the big challenges that we have working in such a space.
So because it is not a greenfield site, as you call it, the building of the road at the same time while people are using the road would have caused significant dislocation for a lot of motorists and residents, wouldn't it?
It does. And we accept that. And we try to, as best as possible, manage those dislocations. We have had to be treating with property owners. We try to, as best as possible, go through the process to the private treaty, meaning persons can agree via a contract to say, well, the land is valued at $100,000. All right, so we'll take $100,000 and move on. There is another process that has to be engaged where persons may say, no, they're not going to be accepting that the land is valued at 100, but you want $1 million. Certainly, you can't pay $1 million for something which is valued at $100,000. Or in other instances, you have situations where persons don't have titles to the property, but they live there. You can't pay. Government does not pay for land in that kind of situation. They may pay for the building, but not for the land. So all of those nuances you have to take on board in executing the projects such as this one.
So we're going down the trend. So you're building a road, you're putting in utilities. It is a road that you're building while you're using the same road, and you have to acquire land. But one of the complaints from the residents is the dust nuisance. Has the NWA thought to do anything to mitigate that problem?
We have, and the attempts are manifold. So part of the contractor's expectation and deliverable is the wetting of the roads. We know that we have been experiencing significant dry periods in almost all the parishes across Jamaica. And so that particular fact would have lended itself to some of the dust issues that we would have seen. We have sought to cauterize that particular issue, and so we have insisted or directed that the contractors oil sections of roads, especially where the traffic is heavy, to try and reduce the incidence of fugitive dust. But ultimately, what we push for is to try and get the asphaltic concrete works done as quickly as possible. So in the areas, Minister, where we would have had paving being done, that you won't find a complaint about dust along the 15-kilometer stretch or so that we have paved between Harborview and Yallas, because the dust is not an issue there. You're going to find persons now complaining, moving to speak about something else. So persons have been calling me to say, well, oh, there are no lights. Yes, we accept that there are no lights there. The JPSCO is responsible for the lighting. They have advised that they are going to be getting a shipment of the poles sometime this month. The contractor is expected to have the bases erected and for the poles to be erected. And so when you drive along the road, you will see some gaps in the Jersey barrier, and those gaps, those spaces, are really where the poles are going to be erected. So they are not left there for persons to be sauntering across the new 4-lane road. No, that's not the idea. It is for the poles that are to come.
So one of the challenges that the persons have spoken about is not just the dust, but also what they claim is the lack of management on the road. Has there been any work to improve that in terms of signs and traffic management and so on?
We have looked at it at different levels. So, for example, about a week or 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting, the CEO, E.J. Hunter, and the consultant who works on behalf of the government, met with a senior member of the contracting firm, China Harbor, from the headquarters or the regional headquarters of the Americas over in Panama. So they were summoned to Jamaica. They came, and we really, threw everything at them to say, look, we're dissatisfied with certain things. We need for you to move on to treating with some of these issues that have been raised legitimately. And so they have given a commitment at their level. Then we move to the level of the subcontractors who work for China Harbor. China Harbor has sought to treat with some of the many issues to the extent that they have separated themselves from 2 of the subcontractors, and they have placed another on, or 2 others on notice that should they not see certain things, then certain actions will follow. As a matter of fact, I believe one has, in terms of the notice that has been given, we expect that China Harbor will act come tomorrow if what has been requested is not seen before the end of the day today. So we have taken on board all of these concerns, these complaints, and action is being taken.
Minister?
So,
Minister?
yes.
Yes, we have a voice note and a text.
Sure.
Right. So
Sure.
let me share the text first. And this is from Marlene, and she says, we don't have a problem from Harborview to Yallas. We have a problem is from Yallas to Morant Bay, knowing the fact that stretch started way before Harborview to Yallas. You may have touched that already. And then let me just play the voice note real quick.
To know when the road from Falmouth to Bunkersville in Trelawney, when it will be fixed.
Over to you.
All right, so we can address the Falmouth to Bunkersville and Trelawney after. So, Stephen, tell us the issue from Yallas to Morant Bay.
All right, so Yallas to Morant Bay, the listener is incorrect actually by saying that that section had started before the Yallas to Harborview. The Yallas to Harborview, the Albion to Harborview section was one of the first bits that we started. The issue from Yallas to Harborview, Yallas to Morant Bay, in the main, the challenges are from Yallas to Pomfret. As a matter of fact, it is one of the, we have packages out there. And that's one of the packages that we have actually, we were quite dissatisfied with. And Czech separated itself from from that particular subcontractor who was working on roughly 4.5 kilometers of road there. We have paved roughly 2.5 kilometers of that stretch. That's a stretch from in the Pomfret area. The bit from Yallas to Yallas Ponds, that one is also has also given us some challenges. The China Harbor has stepped in and they have taken on board the first 3 kilometers or so between Poorman's Corner and the Yallas Square. Work took place over the last couple of days in terms of paving activities up to Poorman's Corner. The pipelaying activities and the testing of the pipelines, those activities continue. And that's really the big ticket item in the Yallas area, ensuring that those pipelines and new lines that have been laid, that they are tested and they satisfy the requisite tests, and we're in a position to base up the area and then move on to the paving of the road. We are looking to see this space substantially better by the end of this month. Of course, it will not be finished because it's a 7 kilometer stretch of road. But we are going to be making more progress as the weeks ensue.
All right, as it relates to Trelawney.
Right, so the road from Falmouth to Springvale is a control section. It's roughly 20 kilometers of road. And we have been doing it in increments. We did spend nearly $200 million near Wakefield, rehabilitating that bit up to D side. We spent can't remember just how much recently, but within the last 6 months, we would have done work in the Holland area, Marthabury area, and we have intentions of following through with work on the rest of the road. We did say at the get-go, it is a project that is a road that is going to be done in increments because we need nearly $1 billion to carry out complete rehabilitation on it. And that is not the kind of money that we have at one go through the capital expenditure, through the secondary maintenance of secondary roads program, which is a program that is funded through the national budget.
So let us go back to St. Thomas. So you are now at North Bay. What's next?
Right. So I didn't get to the section that we're doing from Loudon Hill heading towards Morant Bay, going through White Horses. Yeah. So that now is another package. We have actually paved more than a half of that which we have set ourselves, because that package is just over 9 kilometers, and we have already done over 5 kilometers of paving, and we are progressing nicely towards having it completed by the end of October 2023. Now, persons have raised concerns, rightly so, about the work that has been done and is going on as part of what we call Package 4, which is Morant Bay to Prospect. That is a contractor that I know China Harbour has actually put on notice. I know of some of the challenges, some areas that have been paved. We have seen soft spots or what we call base failures, but the project is incomplete. We expect that China Harbour, with whom the government has signed the contract, will make good on all the things that manifest themselves in respect of what we call defects. The work, there is much work to be done in Morant Bay itself. I know Czech has had some challenges because they have moved into that space as well, and they have experienced some challenges, and they have given a commitment to ramping up their activities, and so Morant Bay should be seeing some increased activities in short order.
But the road is not just St. Thomas, it's also Portland, isn't it?
Yes, but we have been talking a lot about St. Thomas. So we have 2 packages that are in progress in Portland, what we call packages 13 and 12. So 13 takes you from Port Antonio to Drapers, and 12 takes you from Drapers to Boston. We have started paving works out there. The people in Boston, where persons go and buy their favorite jerkers, they have now a new bit of road because the paving has been done in that space, and it is continuing. We were able to put in additional drainage features. We are also doing similar work on the road between Port Antonio and the Drapers. The pipeline and the sewer line infrastructure has been done at an advanced stage. It allows us to carry through now with some of the paving works that I know the persons out there have been clamoring for and really deserve.
But I see you've been doing some paving in Portland, though.
Yeah, man. We have been doing paving out there. That's what I'm saying. We started the paving activities, and we are continuing with those. And as we work towards, getting things in a better way by the end of October of this year.
And so when is this project going to finish for them?
The program of works, we are seeing it being completed in 2025 or thereabouts, because that is the Southern Coastal Line Improvement Program, because we have 15 distinct packages that we have in terms of the road from Yallas to Port Antonio. It's 13 distinct packages, and then that from Morant Bay to Cedar Valley, there are 2. So that's where the 15 comes in, separate and apart from the stretch of road from Harborview to Yallas. No, we have let to date, we have gone to tender and we have contracted 10 of those packages, and we have another 5 that the government intends to commence work on before the end of the fiscal year. Those 5, 3 of them are in St. Thomas in the east, and that's a road taking you from Prospect out to Long Road. And then we have the stretch from Manchaneal leading into Boston over there in Portland. So we have 3 in St. Thomas and 2 in Portland. And those, when they shall be completed, would signal the end of the S-chip and what we believe will be a much better road, much improved road, taking you from Kingston to Port Antonio along the south coast.
All right, so there are some little issues that I wanted to touch base with you on, not related to the ship, but there was a recent Auditor General report that said that there were cost overruns on some roads. So is that correct?
Well, we have responded because Parliament is on a break now, and ordinarily the CEO and team would have been at Parliament to respond to whatever queries and concerns are raised. But I think in the context of the fact that Parliament is on break, we chose to clear the air, so to speak, on what we believe were conclusions that were drawn, which are not consistent with what we know as the facts. So the reports in the press would have indicated that the projects ran over by something like 10 billion or something like that. That's not the case based on our numbers. And, we really trying to say to persons, how do you define a cost overrun? Cost overrun, as we understand it and as we know it, is where you set yourself to build a room for ease of understanding. And you say that this room is going to cost you $100,000. You're going to buy blocks and steel and cement and sand and stones and all of those things. But at the end of the process, with all of those and labor costs, when you finish building that room, it costs you, rather than $100,000, it costs you $150,000 for the same room. In that context, you would have had a cost overrun of $50,000. But in what we have done, where it is that we set ourselves, initially when the project started, it was to do road. There wasn't any telecoms, there wasn't any water infrastructure, any sewer infrastructure. And so the government decided to have those done because it was the practical thing to do. And so different contracts were let to carry out those activities. And so to treat those as a part of the general contract, and that there was a contract overrun, we believe was not the correct statement to have made.
So these are not overruns. These are basically reclassification and reassessment of the work.
These were additional works based on separate contracts, not based on the original agreement. And remember, no, the government owns the contract. The government owns the project, and so if it is that the government decides that, look, I would want not to go for NWC, having done Hagley Park Road. I don't want NWC to come a year later and dig it up to put in water lines, and for Flow to want to put in their sewer, their telecoms, and then you're gonna find that the 20 million US that you spend, or the 50 million US that you spend, you now need to spend an additional 60 million to put in the water, and so when you could have done it at the particular time for maybe half or a quarter of the price, then I mean it is clear what the decision is going to be. So in that context, we are saying that there wasn't an overrun because the original contract was what it was.
Right. And these roads would have been service to Maxfield and all that. Right. One of the questions I want to ask is, what impact has these changes to the contract had on the people in the areas where the roads are built?
Look, I mean, I think the persons who would have benefited, the ordinary Jamaican, from the improvement in the infrastructure, I think they're quite appreciative of that. Which, if you're living or having reasons to be up in beyond Manor Park, for example, and as bad as persons may say it is, no, it was far worse. If you had reasons to be traveling between Savannah Lamar and Montego Bay, and have to go through Deans Valley, Withorn, through Macfield, and so on, and experience the challenges when you have a tractor trailer or two driving along the road, and you're trying to get to the airport or something like that. You get the benefits are clear. We have seen so many other things being spawned by the work that we would have done. I recall, there is a business person on Constant Spring Road, for example, who had a particular facility under construction for years. And the gentleman was quite happy because remember, Constant Spring didn't have a sewer line. And so we actually installed that as part of the overall works. And this individual was over the moon when this was done. He was able to complete his development. And it is, I believe, one of the more sought after commercial places in that particular space right now. Nicely done, and a lot of people there doing business.
Back to St. Thomas, though, what impact do you think this road is going to have on St. Thomas and Portland?
I think, what it is having, tremendous impact. I mean, you talk to persons out there, Minister, you can't get land at a certain price out there anymore. I know of one developer who has plans to build something like 7,000 homes, not so far from Kingston, and that is on the back of the project. We know of the Morant Bay Urban Center. Persons will be able to get into Kingston from that space in a reasonable time at legal speed limits. And I want to stress that, right? So the opportunities are plenty. I've met with persons out in the Grand Spend area, and I've said, when you look at Grand Spend, I met with them in the context of the the road bypassing the community, and I've said to them that, look, they have a tremendous opportunity to build out that place. I mean, if they organize themselves, they could have a nice a facility there where persons will come and just lime, sit down, enjoy themselves. The sea is right there, and all of that. So, I mean, a lot of opportunities are being created.
But when this project is finished, season, will St. Thomas still be the forgotten parish?
I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it is going to be the forgotten parish. My you know, I have relatives in St. Thomas. I must tell you. I saw one of my cousins came to see me from St. Thomas last week Friday, and she was saying to me, in coming, she has not been to Kingston in a little while, and she was coming in and asking questions. Where am I? Because she had not driven on the new Bitter Road, not knowing, and she was confused, not knowing where exactly she was. And she was absolutely over the moon. She was loving it.
So you have the road coming. You also have the town center coming in Marant Bay. You have the Bond town center, I believe, coming as well. There has been renovation to the hospital in St. Thomas as well. I think it's what Princess Margaret is called.
Yes.
So St. Thomas is really seeing a lot of significant development. How much money is this road costing the government?
Plenty billions. I'm sorry I didn't walk with all of that, but the program overall is, well, it's the program is 343 million US. Some of that is being spent to do the extension to the toll road east-west from Maypen to Williamsfield, which, as you know, that one is actually nearing completion. It's about 98% there, to be open soon. But it's a significant amount of money is being spent out in the east between St. Thomas and Portland.
Before you go, we only have a few minutes left. We neglected to mention that the Rotary Improvement Project is not just in St. Thomas.
Yes.
And Portland, it's also
Quite so. So there is that 28-kilometer stretch of road from the roundabout by Glenmuir Road all the way to Williamsfield. I think while I don't speak on behalf of NROC, just for completeness, I know that they have, as I said, paved roughly 98% of the new road. They are working right now at the roundabout at Glenmuir Road, because the configuration there is going to go back to what it were before the toll road. So when you leave the Glenmuir Bridge, you're going to go straight rather than heading into that roundabout and having to make that left if you're going towards Mineral Heights. And of course, they are doing an interchange out just beyond the Glenmuir roundabout. So for persons who, with a Florida T is one where it's a person coming from Parnassus heading towards Maypen, they won't have to stop. But those who are heading towards Parnassus from the Glenmuir roundabout, that intersection to go into or to come off the toll road is going to be controlled by traffic signals. That's the concept out there.
When is the road from Maypen to Williamsfield? When is that going to be finished?
I believe they have the end of August this year for completion.
So we're going to have a happy independence.
Yeah, maybe good start of the new school year.
Thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate you coming on. Good morning, Minister, this morning. I'm a bit under the weather, which is why I'm keeping safe away from everybody else. But thank you very much for coming. And thanks to the listeners and on Love 101, the family station. Nadine, thank you very much.
No
Nadine,
problem.
thanks for today. And also the team from Love 101, those who are listening and watching online and on the radio. This has been Good Morning Minister. Thanks to Stephen Shaw from the NWA for passing through. Next week Wednesday, same time, 11 a.m. on Love 101 for Good Morning Minister. Until then, take care.
Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica! The celebration of emancipation